Hello, Zysas here. Just bringing you a quick guide to expeditions. We're going to quickly go over what they are and what rewards they give and like how to get the rewards that you're looking for. That'll be the main focus of this. So let's just jump straight into this. As for a disclaimer, there's a small sample size. It is very time consuming to complete expeditions, so I was only able to get about 5 per difficulty. So it's about 15 overall. So I am confident in some things because there are some things that just don't seem to change across any of the 15. I would have expected even small numbers probably would have come into effect. But there are some spots where I'll try to mention it when they come up where the numbers I can't be 100% certain on. There might be some like edge cases that are like, 5 or less percent chance of happening. But yeah, we'll see how that goes in the long run. And the reason I'm doing it with the small sample size is to get a full sample size could legitimately take months, and that this guide won't be useful in like 3 6 months time when everyone's already familiar with how these expeditions work. But for too long didn't watch, epic enhancements seem to only be found in brutal expeditions, so if you're looking for those purples, you gotta go into the hardest ones. Seems to be the only way to get them, so that's just that. Synthite gains are lower than they are before, but they are significantly more front-loaded, and a glitch that was causing drops to not actually be given to players seems to have been fixed. So Synthite gains may be higher than they were last patch, but technically they're lower than they were supposed to be last patch. And being significantly more front-loaded just feels nicer in general. Cell gains are about half what they were, but everything has been reduced to less than half of what it cost in cells previously. So we're actually relatively getting more cells than we were before, though generally not as much as we were on release. Okay, so for the actual expedition overview. So what are expeditions? It's the new map selection for raiding and Meet Your Maker. Completing expeditions unlocks consumable and cosmetic rewards. Normal gives 100 points. Dangerous gives 150, Brutal gives 200. The first like 24 levels take 200 per level, so 2 normals, 1 brutal, 1 1/3 dangerous will add up to a level, and you'll get either some enhancements or a new cosmetic. You can have 3 expeditions active at one time, 1 for each difficulty. They must be completed before we can start another one. Each expedition has 8 outpost nodes and 8 reward nodes. The outpost nodes are 6 normal, 2 champion outposts, split evenly between parts and Synthite, so that'll be 3 normal Synthite outposts, 3 normal parts outposts, and 1 each of parts and Synthite for champion. Because champions no longer give both, they give one or the other, though the numbers are increased. On all of these, the numbers on all of these were increased. The reward nodes are typically 1 cell node, 3 Synthite and part nodes split evenly between the two, so they'll be at least you'll either have 2 Synthite or 2 parts nodes and one of the other. And then 4 enhancements typically. There are some edge cases which we'll go over now. Enhancements. So what are enhancements? They're a single-use consumable buff. They're given to you in packs of 3. They last for the entire outpost. They're only used up in the active queue. So if you're actually in an expedition, you are using your enhancements. If you're in social or testing a map, you're not using your enhancements. You can equip them, they won't be used up. One thing to watch out for, they don't get automatically unequipped when you finish the level. So if you are using enhancements, you want to make sure that you go and take them off before you go into the active queue if you don't want to waste them. There's typically 4 given per expedition. The reason I say typically is of the 15 maps that I used as a test, I did run into one case where I was given an extra cells node that was giving less cells than it typically would. And I only had 3 enhancements on that particular expedition map layouts. So there seems to be a chance at minimum that they can roll cells, there might be chances that it can roll other things as well. Like maybe it can roll synthite or parts. I don't know. It seems to be fairly rare, and the I think most of the time you're just gonna get four enhancements. Normals seem to only have common and uncommon, so that's the white and green ones. They seem to vary between 1 and 3. So if you've got 3 on one, you got 1 on the other, but 2 and 2 is more common. Dangerous. A lot of these cases, I am not actually sure if it's 1 to 2 or if it's like 0 to 2 or maybe 0 to 3. I think it's probably 0 to 2 with a lot of these 1 to 2 ones. But although I've never seen a brutal without at least one epic enhancement, and two epic enhancements in brutals was a lot more common than say two rare in dangerous or three uncommon in normal expeditions. So there's a very real possibility that this might actually be 1 to 2, and the rest of these could all be like 0 to 2 or something. But yeah, 1 to 2 common, 1 to 2 uncommon, 1 to 2 rare for dangerous. So they have the white, greens, and blues, and brutals seem to have the greens, blues, and purples. And the I couldn't find a single case where an enhancement that wasn't one of these colors that are listed here dropped in the thing in these expeditions. So normal, I never found a single blue or purple. Dangerous, I found no purples, and brutals, I found no whites. Which means that there is now a lot more reason to go and raid the brutal expeditions. I think that's better overall for the game, because it means that you now have a reason to go find brutals, and that's to grab these really powerful epic enhancements, which is nice. Nice to have a reason, whereas previously it was all just down to timing, and most of the time dangerous or normal would come out ahead for a vast majority of the player base. Anyway, next up we have Synthite gains. This is obviously the resource that most people cared about previously, so let's go over that quickly. Each expedition has 1 to 2 Synthite nodes. It seems to be roughly 50-50. They're worth 100 for normal, 200 for dangerous, 300 for brutal. So averaging 150, 300, and 450, because it seems to be about 50-50 on whether it's Synthite or parts. You also have 4 outposts that grant Synthite, grant guaranteed Synthite, 3 normal, 1 champion. So completing a whole expedition gives 475 Synthite for normal, roughly 60 per map, 725 for dangerous, roughly 90 per map, and 1,000 for brutal, about 125 per map you complete. This is actually slightly lower. It's somewhere between 81 and 87% as efficient as it was previously. So we are technically getting slightly lower Synthite gains. We're getting more per map, but because we are forced to play parts maps now, so we're getting about 160% plus per map, but per Synthite map, but we're also forced to play parts maps, which we weren't previously, and that's why the numbers are coming out slightly lower. The flip side of that is they seem to have fixed a bug that caused drops to not be added to your inventory, which was real dumb. So you probably are getting more Synthite this patch than you were last patch, just because of that bug being fixed. Previously, like for second tombs and anything you've got that dropped on the level was pointless, which was unfortunate. But that has been fixed. So you probably will be getting more because like a brutal map gives more than 20. You're not like even if you like full speed running, unless you're like doing a true pacifist run, you're gonna get more than 20 on a brutal map, which means that this 143 is really easy to surpass. And especially considering it's actually two brutal maps because it's that one and the parts one, so you only really need to get like 10 per thing. It's yeah, you will be getting more Synthite this patch, but the guaranteed rewards are technically slightly lower. And the last thing that probably matters for some people is cell gain. Cell gain is obviously not super relevant to really advanced players like myself. I have 75,000 cells plus at the moment. I can't remember the exact number. It's somewhere between 75 and 80k. I don't need cells. I've got everything unlocked. But when you first start out, and possibly for someone that's watching this, you might be needing it. I did go through and check this, all the cell gains, everything that costs cells has been reduced significantly. So you actually are a lot faster than you were last patch, even though you are getting less cells, which means that the 100k storage is actually more impactful, and like my 75k is more unlocks down the line than it would have been previously. Each expedition has one guaranteed cell node. It's 50, 100, 150 for the various difficulties, which is a new source of cells, which is part of why the cell gain is actually quite as good. Gem mat gains haven't been affected, but the amount you get from a Chimera level is down to 100 from previously, I believe it was 500. So that's that seems really bad. Like that seems like we're losing 60% of our cell gain, but we're actually only losing about half because of this extra little bit that's been added, the guaranteed cell node that's in each expedition. So yeah, we're about at half what we were before, so that's about this. So we're about a quarter what we were on release because they halved it when they added the daily quests instead of the Chimera levels. Not Chimera levels, tribute levels. That was when they halved it the first time. A lot of the costs, though, have been adjusted to be a lot more reasonable. Unlocks are now 2.5 times faster than they were, and the they'd already been reduced to half to account for the tribute level change as well. So we're actually significantly faster than we would have been at release for that one. BioLink upgrades are a little bit slower than they were on release, but still faster than they were before this patch. Weapon upgrades are cost about as much as they would have on release time wise. And yeah, so it's all adding up quite a lot. And if you actually do check how much things cost now, they're really low numbers. So it's going to feel like it's only going to be like a couple days a day or a couple days before you get your next unlock, as opposed to previously when you're looking at like a 600 number and you don't really understand where that's coming from. I think it's significantly better communicated than it was before. So that's better for new players. And this also means because all the costs have been reduced, that the 100k storage is going to go further. So what used to cost, like previously a I'd worked out that with the unlock with the like roadmap and whatnot, I probably was going to be able to go to like 9 months with my current cell counts, whereas nowadays it's probably more like 18, and that's just with the 100k I have in storage. You can also just once you're getting close to the cap, you can just stop pressing the Chimera button and you can source a bunch of Chimera levels up, which could add even more on top of the 100k storage, potentially up to 200k, which could legitimately last years, which we'll see how the game goes for that. But that's everything for expeditions. The only other awards is parts, and I don't think anyone cares too much about part gain. So, and it maps out fairly similar to Synthite with just lower numbers. The So anyway, that should be it for like finding your rewards. So for enhancements, you got to go to brutal if you want to get the epics. If you're happy with lower things, you just need to complete expeditions. Synthites numbers are relatively comparable. Normal seems to give more than it takes time-wise, because normals typically only take, like a minute, whereas brutals could take up to like 5. Obviously, depending on skill level and whatnot. And dangerouses are somewhere in the middle there somewhere. So you can just work out how long it takes you to complete a map, and then work out which one of these is best for you. And cells, it doesn't really matter which one you complete, honestly. Just complete a map. It will be fine. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. I will be back on the weekend. I might be doing a building stream, but I will definitely be uploading I've got a couple maps that I haven't done base tours for that were made in the last couple months. So I want to get those out of the way and then start working on some new stuff. But anyway, I shall see you there.